I'm Cori. I'm a lead consultant at LBMC Information Security, where we provide penetration testing to our clients. We do physical penetration testing, network penetration testing, and all sorts of social engineering. Yeah, so physical security is the first step when it comes to defense, right? We see it in our daily lives. We want to feel safe and secure in our home, but that also extends to our data, whether it's in the office, and of course, even extends to our digital data, which is what information security is. Physical penetration testing identifies security vulnerabilities that are on the physical layer. When we do a physical penetration test, we're emulating an adversary that's targeting a physical space. That could be something like a data center, a bank, anything like that. What we do is uncover things like unauthorized access through spaces, access to sensitive data. Plenty of times we see employees will write their passwords down on sticky notes and stuff like that. We just try to uncover anything that an adversary would look for. So physical penetration testing identifies risks in physical spaces. So that could be through entrance and exit doors, sensitive data that we have stored somewhere, like I mentioned, data center, or on our actual computers themselves, physical access to them. When we do a physical penetration assessment, we're targeting the physical space itself, trying to access anything, whether it be documents, the location, anything that an adversary would find important. When we do digital or network penetration testing, we're targeting actual devices at the software level or the network level. So, social engineering is the act of manipulating or kind of guiding someone to make a specific decision. And that can be in the realm of a completely falsified situation, which it most usually is. In social engineering, we craft a pretext, which is the situation that we've created for ourselves. Oftentimes, you'll hear of pretexts like someone pretending to work at IT, and they'll call an employee and say, "Hey, we need you to reset your password. We'll do it for you right now. Can you give us your old password and then a new password?" All of that kind of stuff. The role that social engineering plays in physical penetration testing is massive. Without social engineering, you're targeting the actual physical technologies themselves. So that may be like lock and keys, biometric controls, all that sort of stuff. When you integrate social engineering into the mix, first it's much more powerful. People are much more easily swayed when they're communicating with another person. We have a false hope in social situations. Like we always assume the best intentions of someone, and through that we ignore the red flags. So physical penetration testing itself, it informs employees of a lot of things. There's an old adage from the IBM CEO, I believe his name was Thomas Watson. And he was once asked, "Are you going to fire an employee that made a $600,000 mistake?" And he said, "Why would I fire them? They've just learned a $600,000 lesson." But beyond that, people learn plenty of things, whether it be about the controls themselves or people's intentions. Some of the most common things that we see are tailgating. So that would be when someone is accessing a secured space, someone will follow in behind them, whether they just do it as the door keeps open or they're holding a couple of Starbucks in their hands and they can't open the door themselves. Things like dumpster diving. This is something that we actually have to do. We have to go into dumpsters that are outside of office buildings because people throw away sensitive data, whether it be paperwork or old technology stuff they've used that can hold IP, all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So some of the consequences that we see: theft of intellectual property, unauthorized access to spaces itself, which when we do penetration testing, once we access the space, we'll try to establish like a longer form of connection to their network. So we'll come in with like devices. And if we see an open Ethernet port where we can access a server or a data center, we'll leave a device there that we can continuously access because then, of course, we basically have it forever. In terms of physical security threats, employees should just be aware of their surroundings. And that extends to social engineering too. Many times we'll call people and try to get information over the phone from them or through email. At LBMC internally, we do a continuous phishing assessment. Just be aware. I think the biggest thing that people can think of is If you have an interaction that elicits an emotional response from, you should take a step back and reconsider, like, why am I having an emotional response here compared to all of the other social interactions that I have every day? So, physical penetration assessments uncover vulnerabilities within our physical spaces. And that can be with physical access controls like doors or areas that cameras are in. Plenty of times we've seen like a door will open and then it won't close for about 20 seconds. The weight isn't properly configured or something like that. And so we aggregate all of those and let them know and they can fix them. So, at a baseline, we recommend that organizations conduct a physical security assessment every year. But if you're changing office spaces or you're integrating new physical controls, we recommend doing it on an as needed basis. So, everyone does physical penetration testing differently. For my approach, I'll typically target through prior like phishing, voice phishing, just because people find human voices comforting and they acknowledge them in a trusting way. So, probably one of my most memorable assessments because this company that I had targeted had done a physical penetration test on an annual basis and it had never been compromised. I started the test by identifying someone at a specific location, and this was a data center for a financial institution. I identified someone that was working on site and I called them and I pretended to be their director, which was the director of physical security. And I told them, hey, I have a vendor coming on site in a few hours. Do they need to bring anything besides their ID? And the person said, no, they'll be totally fine. I'll just check them in and give them a badge. And then I myself again went to the location a few hours later and completely, there was no way to access the interior from the exterior. There was only one entrance and it was through RFID, very minimal amount of employees coming in and out. I eventually waited until someone walked up and I said, hey, I'm trying to meet this person on the inside. And so they let me in and they brought me to him. And he said, oh, the director of physical security informed me that you were coming by. Here's a badge. Do whatever you need to do. And so I went around and I just took pictures of access controls, cameras, locks, and everything. In reality, all I really wanted to access was the data center itself. So I eventually went back to him and I said, you know what? I need to access the data center to complete this assessment. And so he badged me into it and I put a device up on the network that allowed us to remotely access it. And as I was leaving, two IT employees walked up to us and they said, dude, who is this? Who did you let into the data center? And they assured them, don't worry about it. It's not a breach. Everything's fine. And I said, hey, I'm good here. I finished my assessment and I left. Yeah, I think in that instance, because they had identified that it was a breach, other employees came over and identified that I should not have been there. They started typical breach protocol, which for them I think was, I don't know if it was involving law enforcement, but I know that they had contacted their internal security team and it was escalated and eventually came back that it was an authorized assessment. But typically after that, just informing employees of the risks. And that's really all we can do when it comes to social engineering is just ensuring that employees of an organization are constantly aware of what's happening and the possibilities and risks associated with that.